She hasn't called, she hasn't texted, and yet something tells you she's still thinking about you. Not every silence means it's over. Sometimes it's her way of waiting, hoping you'll make the first move without having to ask for it. But how do you know the difference between genuine distance and quiet expectation? In today's video, we're going to break down 11 clear signs that she's waiting for you to reach out. These aren't just surface-level behaviours, they're emotional signals, subtle invitations, and often reflections of her own inner battle between pride and vulnerability. As a Stoic man, this isn't about chasing, it's about understanding, reading the signs without losing yourself in them, knowing when to stay silent and when it's time to speak. Let's dive in. Number 1. Her silence isn't cold. Her silence isn't cold. It's calculated sometimes. Silence isn't distance. It's an invitation. If she's gone quiet but hasn't blocked you or cut ties completely, she might be hoping you break the ice. A Stoic man reads between the silences without being ruled by them. Let's talk about this. Her silence might feel like rejection, like she's shutting the door, but if you look closer, it's not always about shutting you out. It can be about drawing you in. There's a difference between a woman who's done with you and a woman who's testing what you'll do. In her absence, think about it. She doesn't block you. She doesn't unfriend you. She doesn't delete the pictures. She just stops talking, stops initiating, stops chasing. And now you're left wondering, is she done or is she waiting? Here's the truth. Most men miss this kind of silence is not emotional absence. It's strategic space. She wants to see what you'll do when her voice fades. Will you come running? Will you double text? Will you fold or will you hold your frame? A Stoic man doesn't get caught in that emotional storm. He pauses. He reflects and he responds, not to manipulate, not to win, but to stay aligned with who he is. He understands what Epictetus once said. It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. If her silence is a move, your reaction is your truth. Imagine, she used to message you every morning. Suddenly it stops. No good morning, no little check-ins. Most men panic, they fill the silence with fear. They write long, emotional texts, trying to fix something that hasn't even been clearly broken. But the Stoic man, he notices the change, but he doesn't chase clarity where it's not freely offered. He doesn't start performing for her attention. Instead, he uses the silence as a mirror, asking, what does this reveal about her, and what does it awaken in me? Her silence becomes his training ground. It teaches him patience, it tests his discipline, and it strengthens his ability to stand still in emotional uncertainty without collapsing. Because sometimes a silence is a chess move, not a goodbye. And if you overreact, if you let the silence make you anxious or impulsive, you've already lost your position. But if you remain calm, if you don't try to control what's unclear, she'll feel that energy shift. She'll feel your presence. Not because you flooded her with messages, but because you didn't flinch. That's when your silence speaks louder than any reply ever could. So if you're in this space right now, if her voice has gone quiet, don't just assume the worst. Don't rush in with explanations or pressure. Watch, reflect, and most importantly, stay grounded. Let her silence be her move. Your move is to remain unshaken before we move on. Take a moment to really think about the power of not reacting. What if this silence isn't meant to punish, but to provoke a response? Not from your emotions, but from your character. That's where the real test lies, and I want to hear from you. Have you experienced this kind of calculated silence before? How did you handle it? Share your thoughts below. Or if you're in that space right now, just drop this. In the comments, I respond with presence. Not panic, let's keep the conversation going. Number 2. She leaves the door. She leaves the door slightly open, unfollowed you. No unfriended, you still there blocking you. Not yet. She might be waiting for you to walk through that digital door. She's purposely left unlocked, but a Stoic man knows just because the door is open doesn't mean he must walk through it. This is the kind of silence that isn't accidental, it's strategic. You see, when a woman wants nothing to do with a man, she closes the door completely. She erases, blocks, deletes, burns the bridge without looking back. But when she leaves that door slightly open, keeps you on her follower list, lets you view her stories, maybe even drops a casual, like, here and there. It's not forgetfulness, it's intention, a quiet test, a signal that says, I want to be missed, but I don't want to be the one who says it out loud. And this is where your discipline as a man gets tested, because part of you wonders, should I reach out? Maybe she's waiting for me. Maybe she wants me to say something. Maybe this is my chance to fix it. But here's where Stoicism steps in with its firm hand and reminds you the door being open is not your invitation. It's her hesitation. Don't confuse her mixed signals with your mission. Your job is not to decode every move she makes. Like some emotional detective, your job is to stay grounded in your values. Peace, clarity, self-respect. If she truly wants you back, she knows where to find you. But walking through that half-open door, just because it's ajar that's not strength, that's seeking validation, let's say, she stops texting for weeks, but suddenly views your story late at night. Nothing else. No message, no explanation, just that tiny digital breadcrumb. The old, you might take the bait, send a, hey, how have you been? Or react to one of her posts just to get the energy flowing again. But the man you're becoming, the grounded, emotionally disciplined man, he feels that tug in his chest and lets it pass. He understands what Epictetus meant when he said, freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control. Her hesitation isn't your emergency. Her silence isn't your cue. And her door, it's hers to open fully or shut completely. You don't push it, you don't peek inside, you walk past it, head held high, because your path isn't defined by who's unsure about you. So if you're in that space right now where the door is not shut but it's not wide open either, don't let curiosity or old habits lure you back into limbo. Let her wrestle with the weight of her own uncertainty. Let her feel your absence. Not as punishment, but as peace. Because when a man resists the urge to chase what is unclear, he becomes unforgettable, and that, my friend, is how you honour yourself. Number 3, her stories speak louder. Her stories speak louder than her texts. You haven't heard from her directly, but she's posting songs with hidden meanings, throwbacks that scream nostalgia, or quotes about missing something real. These aren't random, they're signals. A Stoic man listens with detachment, not desperation. Think about it. If she truly wanted silence, she wouldn't be curating a digital trail of emotion, that carefully chosen lyric. It's not just a song, that photo from 3 summers ago. It's not just a memory, she's telling a story without tagging your name. It's communication without confrontation. And while her texts may be dry, distant, or even non-existent, her stories are full of emotional subtext. It's her way of keeping a connection alive, just enough to be felt, but not enough to be held accountable. Now here's where most men go wrong. They jump at these signs. They reply to a story. They overthink a lyric. They craft a message hoping to decode and respond. But a Stoic man doesn't flinch. He sees the signs for what they are, expressions of her inner conflict, not calls for rescue. Epictetus taught that we should concern ourselves only with what is within our control, and her stories, her cryptic quotes, those are hers to wrestle with, not yours to solve. You see, a Stoic man doesn't need to be acknowledged to feel his value. He doesn't chase breadcrumbs just because they're familiar. He observes without attaching emotion to every pixel. And in doing so, he keeps his peace while others broadcast their confusion. So the next time her story feels like a message aimed at you, pause, breathe, ask yourself, does this require a response or just recognition? Because sometimes silence is the most powerful way to say, I saw it, but I didn't need to react to it. Her stories might speak louder than her texts, but your restraint that speaks volumes without making a sound number. 4 mutual friends keep mutual friends. Keep dropping hints. dropping hints out of nowhere. Her friends mention her name in conversations. Maybe they say she asked about you or that she's been different lately. A Stoic doesn't jump at every breadcrumb, but he notes the pattern because, let's be real, these aren't coincidences when someone close to her starts bringing you up, especially when you didn't ask. There's usually a reason behind it. Maybe her friend casually says, "She was just talking about that trip you took together." Or throws in a vague, "She's not quite herself these days, you weren't searching for updates," but somehow they found their way to you. Here's what you need to understand. When a woman doesn't feel ready to speak to you directly, she often speaks through others, and whether they realize it or not, her friends become the messengers. Sometimes it's subtle, mentioning an old inside joke or asking you questions they know will get back to her. Sometimes it's not subtle at all, you know? She still talks about you when she's had a few drinks, but here's the catch. This is where most men mess up. They hear these things and think it's their cue to reappear to message her to fix something. But a Stoic man doesn't take the bait. He listens, not with hope, but with calm observation. He understands that just because she's thinking about him doesn't mean she's ready for him. Think of it like this. When you're centered in your own peace, you don't rush back just because someone finally looks over their shoulder. You watch, you listen, but you keep moving forward. Your path is yours, not determined by indirect signals or the emotional climate of someone else's uncertainty. So the next time a mutual friend drops her name with that familiar tone or tries to feel out your reaction, don't get swept into their drama. Smile, say less. And remember, sometimes the silence of a Stoic man speaks louder than all their carefully planted clues combined. Let her wonder if you caught the hint. Let her feel the weight of your quiet strength. Because when you don't flinch at the mention of her name, when you stay unshaken, that's when the message gets loud and clear. You're no longer waiting for signs, you've become one. So now I want to hear from you. Has this ever happened to you, where the whispers came through others before she ever said a word? If so, how did you respond? Or better yet, how did you not respond? Your story might help someone else find clarity in the noise. Drop your thoughts below, or if you're keeping it cool, just leave this in the comments. I note the pattern, but I don't chase the signal. Either way, I'm curious to hear how you've handled the hints that weren't so hidden. Let's keep going. Number 5, she keeps you in her digital orbit. She keeps you in her digital orbit. You notice she still watches your stories, likes old posts, randomly appears in your suggested friends or music playlist suggestions. Algorithms maybe, but often it's intentional. A Stoic man doesn't chase signs, but he acknowledges their presence. He doesn't scroll endlessly, trying to decode every move, but he also doesn't pretend the signs aren't there. See, when a woman wants to stay connected, but without fully stepping back into your life, she'll linger in the shadows of your digital world. She won't reach out directly, but she'll leave her fingerprints all over your feed. Suddenly, she's liking that photo from 6 months ago, viewing every story within seconds, dropping into the comment section of mutual friends, just close enough to be seen, just far enough to stay safe. It's a modern form of emotional proximity. She's not ready to open the door, but she wants to make sure it's not locked when or if she decides to return. Here's where a Stoic man stands apart. He doesn't react. He doesn't message her the moment she shows up in his notifications. He doesn't rush to interpret every digital interaction as a grand gesture. Why? Because a man rooted in his principles understands that attention isn't the same as intention. Presence online doesn't always equal presence in the heart. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Look well into thyself, there's a source of strength which will always spring up if thou wilt always look." So you look inward. You use the moment as a mirror, not a magnet. You reflect on how far you've come, not on who's watching you get there. Maybe she's orbiting you for comfort. Maybe it's curiosity. Maybe it's regret. But that's not your mission to figure out. Your mission is to keep growing, to stay grounded, to not let digital breadcrumbs lead you back into emotional uncertainty. So if you feel her lingering, notice it, but don't revolve around it. Stay centered. Let her orbit if she must, but don't let her gravity pull you off your path. Number 6, her energy shifts. Her energy shifts without contact. She's not reaching out, but something's different. Her vibe feels familiar again. Softer. More present, even from a distance. A Stoic mind understands the absence of words doesn't mean the absence of feeling. You notice it. Not through messages, but through the unspoken. Maybe her playlist starts to mirror old memories, songs you once shared. Maybe she's posting less, and when she does, the energy feels like a quiet echo of the time when things were good between you. Or maybe for no visible reason at all, you simply feel her again. Like her spirit is knocking gently on the edges of your awareness. It's subtle. No calls, no texts, no big gestures. Just a shift. And here's the thing. Energy doesn't lie, even if she never says it. Even if she keeps her distance, something inside her is leaning in again. Not all reconnection starts with a phone vibrating. Sometimes it starts with her spirit softening in your direction, even if she doesn't fully understand it herself yet. Now, this is where most men rush in. They sense that shift and take it as a green light to chase, to speak, to explain. But a man rooted in Stoicism does the opposite. He feels it. Yes, but he doesn't react. He stays still. He allows her energy to come to him, not to validate his worth, but to reveal her truth. Seneca once said, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." And this is the moment to remember that don't overthink it. Don't try to decode every post or interpret every silence. Simply observe. Hold your center. Let time, nature, do what they do best. Unfold truth without your interference. If her energy is truly shifting, it will find its way to you. Not through pressure, not through pursuit, but through gravity, the kind of pull that only peace and presence can create. So stay grounded, stay unmoved, and let her energy speak before her mouth ever does. Number 7. She brings up old memories. She brings up old memories. Indirectly, whether through social media posts or subtle shared memories, she starts referencing. Moments only you two would understand, a picture of the coffee shop you used to visit, a song lyric that played during one of your road trips, a caption like, "Funny how life circles back beneath a photo of somewhere you once laughed together." To the untrained eye, it's just nostalgia. But if you've been silent, if you've chosen space over reaction, these aren't coincidences. They're quiet echoes. A Stoic man sees this for what it is. Not an invitation to chase, but a reflection of unresolved emotion. He doesn't jump in to comment or message. He doesn't let his ego get flattered. He observes without attachment, because Stoicism teaches us this. What is done, and what remains is only what we choose to carry forward. When she brings up old memories indirectly, it often means the past is speaking louder than the present. She may not be ready to admit she misses you outright, but that doesn't mean she's not feeling it. Her way of reaching out might come wrapped in subtlety. Not because she's playing games, but because she's unsure if you're still the same man, or if you've grown beyond her reach. This is where your discipline matters. You're not the same man who once needed her validation. You've become the kind of man who can smile at the past without needing to revisit it. And that calm presence, that quiet strength is often what stirs something in her. She might want to know if you remember. But more than that, she wants to know if you still feel. And here's the truth. You do remember. You just don't need to relive it to prove you've healed. Let those memories float by like leaves on a river. Acknowledge them, appreciate them, but don't dive in chasing where they might lead, because sometimes the most powerful response to the past is to stay fully present with yourself. Let me know, have you ever seen this happen? When someone brings up memories, not to reconnect, but to see if you're still listening. Drop your thoughts below, and this is where I want to hear from you. Have you ever noticed someone bringing up the past, not out of conversation but curiosity? Not to reopen the door, but just to see if it's still unlocked. Maybe it was a song, a photo, a subtle nod to something only the two of you would catch. It's a quiet language, but one that speaks volumes. If you've ever experienced this kind of indirect outreach, share your story in the comments, or just type, "I've seen the signs." Because sometimes acknowledging it is the first step in letting it go. Let's move forward and unpack the next subtle sign. Number 8. Her newfound happiness. Her newfound happiness feels performed suddenly. She's overly public about her joy, her glow up, her new routines. Not for her friends. For you, it's not always about moving on. Sometimes it's about testing. If you'll notice the Stoic path, observe, but don't orbit her emotional theatre. You'll see it play out online, a flood of curated selfies, hashtags about self-love, group shots with new faces, a caption about how she's never felt better. But something about it doesn't sit right. It feels exaggerated, forced, as if she's more focused on being seen than actually being content. And here's the thing, when someone truly finds peace, they rarely need to announce it to the world in bold letters. Genuine happiness is quiet, grounded, lived. But when it's weaponized as a message, especially so soon after distance or silence, it starts to resemble performance. You can tell not by what she posts but by what she avoids saying. It's the silence between the loud photos, the indirect captions aimed at nobody. The subtle echo of, "Are you watching?" As a Stoic man, you don't take the bait. You don't let her performance pull you back into an old role. You're not an audience anymore. You're the director of your own story now. And while it's natural to feel something when someone you once loved seems to move on in a flash, you've got to remember, this real growth doesn't beg for validation. It doesn't wear a mask for social media. It happens in private where no applause is needed. Let her perform, if she must. Let her play the role of the one who won the breakup. But don't compete, don't react, don't try to prove your own worth in return. That's not the Stoic way. Your peace isn't reactive, it's resilient. You see what she's doing, and instead of getting pulled into her emotional orbit, you center yourself deeper into your own, because at the end of the day, what matters isn't how loud she shouts her joy. It's how silent your presence becomes when you no longer look for her updates, no longer scroll to see if she still thinks of you. That's when you've truly detached. And ironically, that's when she feels it the most. So stay grounded. Let her post, let her glow. But remember, peace that is posted is often peace that is still being searched for. Let her chase appearances, you chase truth. Number 9. She's still connected to your world. Maybe she still supports your work. She's still connected to your world, likes your sister's posts, or keeps in touch with your circle. These threads aren't coincidence. They're quiet bridges, but the Stoic man doesn't sprint across every bridge. He waits to see if it's stable. See when a woman still lingers around your life, even from a distance. It's rarely random. Maybe she no longer messages you directly, but she reacts to the things around you. Maybe she asks your best friend how you're doing, or shows up at an event where she knows there's a chance you might be. It's subtle, it's indirect, but it's there. Here's what most men do wrong. They treat those small gestures like green lights and charge ahead. They think, "She liked my new project post. Maybe she's ready to talk again." But that's not presence. It's projection. It's emotion looking for validation. A Stoic man doesn't do that. He doesn't assume every echo is an invitation. Instead, he observes, he stays grounded. Just like Epictetus taught, we have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we can listen twice as much as we speak. Apply that here. Listen to what her behavior reveals, but don't rush to fill the silence. Don't turn her digital crumbs into a full-course narrative. If she's still tethered to your world, she feels something. Maybe it's regret, maybe it's nostalgia, maybe she's not ready to close the book. But guess what? That's not your burden. To solve your job isn't to decode her every move. It's to protect your peace, to stay anchored in your mission. not drift into hers. So, yeah, she's still connected, but connections don't equal commitment. And as a Stoic man, you don't follow breadcrumbs. You follow principles. Let her actions grow roots before you even consider reaching across the bridge, because if the bridge is real, it won't disappear when you don't chase it. Number 10, she's not moving on, she's waiting. She hasn't dated. She's not moving on. She's waiting anyone new. She hasn't been seen with someone else. And though she may pretend she's focusing on herself, the space she's left might be for you. You see the signs. No new romantic interests, no public declarations of a fresh start, no energy that truly screams she's closed the chapter. Sometimes the silence isn't emptiness, it's expectation. And when a woman is waiting, it doesn't always look obvious. She might keep her life looking full on the surface, but in quiet ways she's still holding the door open. Just enough. Maybe she still replies to your stories with inside jokes. Maybe she keeps mutual friends close enough to hear updates about your life. Or maybe it's in the way she avoids certain posts, certain places, certain things that used to be yours. Her life isn't moving forward because emotionally she's paused right at the moment you left. But here's where the Stoic mindset separates the man from the boy. A Stoic doesn't confuse waiting with worth. He doesn't assume that because she's still emotionally tied, it means he should return. He understands that the right connection must be rooted in values, not nostalgia in meditaso. Marcus Aurelius reminds us that what stands in the way becomes the way, and sometimes that emotional pause is not a signal to turn around, but a signpost reminding you to keep moving forward unless that relationship aligns with your growth, your peace, your deeper sense of self. So yes, she may be waiting, but that doesn't automatically make her ready. And more importantly, it doesn't obligate you to revisit a version of yourself. You've already outgrown. The Stoic man doesn't move backward just because the past hasn't moved on. He listens, he observes, he respects the silence, but he only re-engages if that connection reflects his evolution. Not his old emotional habits. Ask yourself, is she waiting for you or for who you used to be? Because those are two very different doors, and only one leads forward. This is where things get real, because recognizing that she hasn't moved on is not the same as believing she's the right one for you. Now it's easy to be pulled by emotion, to feel tempted by familiarity, but as a Stoic, your job isn't to react, it's to reflect. Ask yourself, does her silence hold space for genuine growth? Or is it just an echo of the comfort you use to provide? These are the hard questions that shape real self-respect before we move on to the next sign. Take a moment to reflect on your own journey. Have you ever felt her presence lingering even when she wasn't speaking? Drop your thoughts below, or if you're short on words, just type, "She's paused, but I'm not stuck." Number 11. Her. Her pride is louder than her heart. Pride is louder than her heart. She may want to talk to reconnect, but her ego stands guard. She's hoping you make the move, so she doesn't have to. That's the paradox you're dealing with. She misses you, but not enough to lower her defenses first. So, instead of reaching out, she waits behind silence, letting her pride do all the speaking, while her heart stays quiet in the background. You might notice it in subtle ways. She's watching your stories, liking that one throwback post from weeks ago. Maybe even posting something vague that sounds like a half confession. Half dare, some people don't realize what they had until it's gone. And sure, it's tempting to interpret these as signs. She wants you back. But here's where a Stoic man thinks deeper. He doesn't react to emotion alone. He reads the intention beneath it. Ask yourself, is her silence an invitation to reconnect or a challenge to see if you'll break first? Because there's a difference. One is about healing, the other is about winning. And if it's the latter, you're not reuniting. You're entering a tug-of-war with no peace on the other side. Epictetus once said, If someone provokes you, realize that it is your own opinion which provokes you. In this case, her silence doesn't demand your reaction. It tests it. A Stoic man chooses stillness when the world tries to shake him. He doesn't chase validation. He doesn't rush to fix what isn't rooted in respect. So if she's letting her pride speak louder than her heart, let her. That's not your burden. Your role isn't to decode mixed signals or outlast her stubbornness. It's to remain aligned with your own values. Honesty, peace, clarity. If she reaches out with sincerity, you'll know. But until then, don't confuse ego games for emotional growth. And remember, sometimes the loudest silence is the one that teaches you the most. Stay grounded, stay patient, and above all, stay true to yourself. So now that you've seen the signs, the question isn't just, is she conclusion waiting for me? It's, should I respond? A Stoic doesn't move because of loneliness impulse or old emotions. He moves when action aligns with values. Peace and purpose. If reaching out serves your integrity, not just your ego, then maybe that message is worth sending. But if you're only reaching because you miss the comfort or fear the silence, that's not strength, that's attachment disguised as courage. Observe the signs, trust your intuition, but most importantly, honor your growth. If this video spoke to you, drop a comment sharing which sign resonated most, or just type Stoic strength to let me know you're walking this path with intention. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and check out the recommended videos on your screen. Until next time, stay grounded and stay untouchable.